Hello, my name is Spencer and I like to make tiny dorky projects to escape reality for a bit. Lately, reality has been feeling a bit overwhelming, so this video will take a slightly different approach. My local hobby shop had a massive sale on all things Star Wars Legion, and let's just say I went a little overboard. Retail therapy is real, people. For this video, I will assemble this Anakin Skywalker from the tabletop board game and show you how I painted him. Typically, I incorporate my miniatures into full dioramas, but due to time constraints, this video will be a focused, dedicated painting tutorial. Don't worry, Anakin will make a return in a much larger diorama in the near future. To begin assembly, I took out all the contents of the box, including the plastic on the sprues, rulebook, and cards for gameplay. However, I am primarily concerned just about the plastic. Using my Ruatool hobby nippers, I can start separating our required pieces from the sprues. These aren't necessarily the best nippers in the world, but they're rather nice and get the job done without any fuss. Once all the parts were liberated, I could then use some Tamiya extra thin cement to bring Anakin together. I have to say, I'm seriously impressed with the quality of this model. The mold lines are minimal, the gaps are nearly non-existent, and the sprue knobs are easily accessible. I can then do a quick cleanup with my hobby knife, eliminating any remaining imperfections. But I do spot one tiny gap nestled in the folds of Anakin's robes. To fix this, I like to use Vallejo plastic putty by putting the putty into a mixing dish with some water and mixing it around to get a nice smooth application. I can then move it into the smaller areas and not interfere with the flow of the robes. Even when there was more putty on the plastic than I wanted, I could then come in with a watered down brush and slowly pull any excess putty off. Once I'm satisfied with Anakin's structure, it's time to shift to my battle-worn painting mat and prep for some priming. I will keep Anakin in two sub-assemblies, his head and his body. I do this primarily so I can make one step later significantly easier. As a bit of a challenge for myself, I'm going to try to use my airbrush as little as possible, but I will use it to prime the model. I do this because it's so much easier, space-saving, and debatably cost-effective than getting a spray can for just a one-model project. I started by applying a Vallejo black primer to both the whole of the body and the head of the model. I then put a zenithal prime on the model using a Vallejo white prime from above. I made sure to very lightly apply the layers so I could have the best chance of not having any white blots appear in the prime. This zenithal method helps me see all aspects and tiny details of the model, and it highlights any potential errors that I made during the assembly, which, thankfully, we look good to proceed now. I also hit the lightsaber with a pure white prime because that part of the model shouldn't be shadowed at all. Next, I applied a layer of Vallejo Camo Black Brown through the airbrush to the entirety of Anakin's clothes, quickly applying a nice foundation in just a few quick passes. I then applied a few more lighter layers from higher angles, helping catch the raised details of the model to give it some more depth. I layered starting by using a chocolate brown from Vallejo and then a final highlight of Vallejo khaki gray. Once I was happy with the sandy tunic, I came in and cleaned up the blade again with some Vallejo white. Anakin's prosthetic robot hand is in a glove that is slightly darker than the rest of his garb, so I came back in with the Vallejo Camo Black Brown to deepen those colors back. Skin is always moderately challenging to me, and luckily Anakin is mostly brown tones. But for his hand, I applied a couple thin layers of Vallejo German orange, slowly building up some depth in the colors. For his boots, I aimed for a deep brown red leather look, experimenting with a few variations before landing on a satisfying shade of a thin layer of Vallejo flat brown on top of a layer of whole red. Using the same color, I then painted his belts and accessories, then highlighted them with thin layers of a slightly lighter tone to emphasize the raised surfaces. To help bring some life into the plastic, we can then apply a thin layer of salmon rose to the hand with a salmon rose color. For the most raised edges of the leather that would catch the most light, I added some white into the cavalry brown to give it a nice pop of contrast. For the final highlight on the hand, we can take only the upraised edges and apply a light flesh tone to it. Then, for all the straps on Anakin's gear, I can come in and add a layer of Iraqi sand to provide a nice contrast and a common color for all the different pieces of gear. Next, we can come in with a Vallejo dark aluminum metal color to highlight the latches and buckles all over the model. Then I painted all the pouches on Anakin's belt with a standard leather brown. For the lightsaber, I had some sky blue and white, creating multiple thin layers and wet blending them together. This process took some trial and error, but it was a nice challenge to improve my blending abilities. Moving to Anakin's head, I started by addressing the deepest recesses following the same overall methods as the hand, starting with a few thin layers of Vallejo German orange. I then took some stark white and carefully put it into the eyes. I then very carefully connected the black borders in the center of the eyes for pupils. Then we can move to highlighting the skin with some thin layers of Vallejo Salmon Rose, and then leading to a final highlight of light flesh. Moving to Hayden's hair, I applied a layer of light brown to the whole of it. I then applied a sepia wash to the entirety of the base, making sure to get it into the deepest recesses. I then took the original light brown and hit all the non-recessed areas of the hair to bring back some of the needed volume. I then mixed in some white to the light brown and applied some highlights to the very most raised areas of Hayden's hair. I then applied a single line of Vallejo charred brown over Anakin's right eye, making very sure that I didn't damage the eye itself, giving Anakin his iconic scar. Finally, once the painting is done, we can then take the head and the body and put them onto a single final assembly. This absolutely could have been the finishing point, but I wanted to add those final details for a presentation, so I took Anakin and put him in his freezer so I could easily pop him off of his base and put him onto a clean, nice, presentable base. Finally, I can paint the sides black and move on to some oh so satisfying glamour shots. To everyone who stuck around till the end, thank you. There's a lot happening and going on right now, and this little hobby is my way of hitting pause, even just for a moment. It means the world to me that I get to share that with you. I've been struggling with a work-life balance, and there's some time management things recently that have come up, and I have a couple of crazy busy months coming up. But I'll try to be back soon with another project or story to tell. Until then, take care, be kind to yourselves, and have an absolutely excellent week. See you all in the next one.